Guys, please make sure that you guys have the workshop in progress role, okay? We don't see if everybody over here have reacted to that message. So please to go into the roles channel, which is just below the general channel. Just scroll up and there will be a message from Fabian or not, react to this message to get the workshop in progress role. Please do react, guys, because we will be tagging the workshop in progress role only. We won't be tagging the entire community, okay? So in order to get the notification, you need that role, okay? So this is mandatory. Do it ASAP. Go to the roles channel and react to the message to get the workshop in progress role. And also the participants who are with your nicknames, please to change it to your original names, because we can't find who you are with your nicknames, okay? So for attendance we need to know who you are, right? So please to change your nicknames to your original names. And then what else? And then yeah, guys, please be interactive and please do respond to all the messages that have been posted by Fabiana, like as quickly as possible, okay? Don't take a long time. Do respond quickly, and please be interactive, guys. Unmute and answer to all the questions that have been asked. And also this session is live streamed on our YouTube channel. You can head and watch it later if you want any clarifications, okay? And if you guys face any difficulties in using Discord, or if you guys have any other issues, please feel free to tag the events committee and we guys are here to help you out, okay? So yeah, that's it. I think we're good to go. Over to you, Fabian, now.
Yeah, thanks, Agnes.
Okay,
for the others, I hope all of you have installed all the necessary softwares that I've asked you to install. Did you all do that? If you are done with all the installations, react to this message. Today we'll be going a bit faster than yesterday. It will be less of lectures and more of hands-on coding. So, yep, you have to be fast. Okay, we have almost 42 and I think 20 have completed their installations. What about the others? The installations won't take you more than 5 to 10 minutes. So while we continue with the workshop, please try to install it as and when it's possible, or you try to follow the workshop and later on you can do it at the end, okay? And it's highly recommended that you react to the workshop in progress role, so that you get notified whenever we put a notification message like this, whenever we need you to install something, okay? Please do that. We need that. Perfect. Okay, let me give you 5 minutes. So the ones who haven't installed anything yet, take this 5 minutes and install. And the others, we'll try to set up our repository. I hope most of you have an idea of what a repository is. Yes, so let me get started. Yes, just tell me if my screen is visible. Somebody, can you unmute and tell that?
Yeah, Fabian.
Yes, Fabian.
Yes, perfect. So I told you to join GitHub Classroom. So I put that link in your Coders chat channel. Please head over there. I can see 23 students who submitted or who have entered the classroom. We have almost 90 who rostered for the workshop yesterday. So please go click the link, join the GitHub Classroom. We want you to be here so that you get access to the repositories and things like that. Okay, please do it as soon as possible. Yes, we have 27, so I think that should be enough. So the ones who have your repositories at your hand, you have to follow me. Okay, go to the repository that this assignment gave you, right? You would have workshop submissions hyphen your username, right? Isn't that right? So head over to your repository on GitHub. So it should look something like this. So we have Anisha's repository. So head over to your GitHub repository. So whichever repository you have at hand, whichever repository which you got after signing up to GitHub and joining our classroom, head over to that repository. Okay, cool. So once you're here, a brief introduction of what GitHub repositories are, or what Git essentially is. So Git is a tool which you use to control different versions of your software. So let's say you do you write a piece of code today, okay, and tomorrow you add some more features to the code. Let's say you write another function that does addition of two numbers, and tomorrow you write a totally different function on the same file which basically gets you the difference between two numbers. So these are totally different new features. People usually do this. They will most of you designers would know this. You will create another file with the same name, so it will be called file 1, or you might call it file 2 or file version 2. So this is a very cumbersome process. Okay, so this is why people actually invented a version controlling system, so a VCS. Git essentially is a version control system. Git is a VCS, and when you head over to the Git's website, you'll find Git SEM. Okay, so a very big important significant difference between Git and GitHub is Git is the tool that you use, or more of Git is the technology that we are going to use. GitHub is more like the platform we use to run our GitHub repositories or store our Git repositories. Okay, so just get this straight, and I hope all of you have installed your Git on your computer. So if Git is running perfectly on your computer, go to your terminal, type in Git, and it should get you something. Please let me know if that's there. React to my message. Vasanta Kumar, share the Git link for the repository page. The repository link, you will get that repository link. So once you head over to the classroom link that I posted earlier, let me just tag again. Once you head over to the Google GitHub Classroom invite, you would be able to create a repository, and it will automatically create the repository and get you the link. You will land on that page. So just tell me if you installed Git, and verify that you have Git installed on your computer. I can see 9 reactions. Perfect. So I don't know, the reactions have become slower. You have to be quick here, because we have a very lot to cover. These are very minimal technologies that we will be talking about today. There are very huge technologies that will change the entire web development game today. Okay, so be quick. So once you've checked if your Git is verified, we have to do something. Okay, the repository that you have on your page, so let's say I have workshop submissions hyphen Fabian. In your case, it might be Anisha2604. Okay, so what you will do is, this repository is on GitHub's server. Okay, it's somewhere on the cloud. It's somewhere around Asia or somewhere. So you want a copy of your repository on your computer for you to work on it. So think of it like a folder where everything that you do is monitored and can be logged. So basically you need this folder. You need this folder to be on the cloud so that nobody can disturb it. It's there, and it cannot be lost. So what you're going to do now is, you're going to take a copy of that repository and put it on your computer. Okay, to do that, you need to get the repository's URL. Okay, once you are there on the GitHub's page, head over to the code button. You will be able to find this link. Click on that link, copy that link. After you copy the link, go to your terminal, type in git clone and paste that link. Tell me once you've done that. You copy the link, you go to your terminal. In your case it would be PowerShell or command prompt, preferably PowerShell. Go to your PowerShell, open your PowerShell and just type in git clone and that repository's URL. Just tell me once you've done that and press enter. So you do git clone, and once you've cloned the repository, you would have the folder which says the name of the repository. So after you've cloned the repository, just ping to my message. And just make sure that you're cloning your repository, not anybody else's repository. You can verify it by looking at the name of the repository. It says workshop submissions hyphen your name. We need this to happen because this is how we will evaluate your submissions for the workshop. Git is not recognized. Vasanta Kumar, have you installed Git on your computer?
Actually, we need to install it.
What?
Actually, we need to install Git.
Yes, that was on the instructions that we gave earlier. So for the ones who haven't installed Git and who are finding trouble installing Git, use this website, head over to this website and download and install Git as soon as possible. Okay, and I hope we have 15. If somebody is finding trouble cloning the repository, it shouldn't take long. I mean, we have 15 who cloned the repository. We are just getting started, so be quick. Okay, I'm gonna proceed so that we won't keep the others waiting. Okay, so once you've cloned your repository, you would be having a folder, right? If you, wherever you clone the repository, you would probably have the folder downloaded over there. Okay, in order to, you don't need to worry about the nitty-gritties of what we are doing here, but just follow with me, right? We are going to open this repository on our VS Code. VS Code is basically one IDE where you're gonna put you're gonna type your code. Okay, I'm not gonna explain every single thing from now on, but just try to cope up. If you have any questions, we'll follow it up at the end. To open your repository on the VS Code, type in code space and your repository's name. In your case, it would be workshop submissions hyphen your GitHub username. So when you press enter, it should open VS Code with the repository opened. Just let me know if you've done that. Okay, I'll cut down the steps that we verify. So anyway, once you've cloned your repository and you are successfully in VS Code, we are going to create a new file, call it index.js. Call it index.js, create a new file. Okay. And after creating the new file, type in console.log and say hello world. Once you've created index.js, put console.log hello world message. So this is probably the first line of code everybody writes on any programming language. So do this and let me know. And once you've created the file, a file with hello world, we are going to execute this file. Okay, I told you that Node has an engine that basically compiles this script into a program, right? So in order to run this piece of code, we would do this. Open your terminal and you would type node index.js. Okay, if you notice, it says hello world. Console.log is basically a print message. You know, you whatever string that you pass into it, whatever parameter that you pass into it, it basically gets you the output. Everybody knows it. So it's basic JavaScript. And for the others who are new to JavaScript, it's just the equivalent of print statements in your other languages. Okay, so once you've done that, now you know, in order to execute any JavaScript file, you would just put node and the file name, right? Pretty simple. Have you done that? Have you tried using Node to run a script? Yes. So we have 8 reactions. Please unmute and tell me if you have any problems in following up, or please let me know so that I can help, because at the end of the day we want you to understand what's happening here. Just don't type in the code, understand what's happening here, ask me questions, I'll be happy to help you out. Okay, we have 9. What about the rest? We have almost 49 and only 9 have completed until now. The latest reaction. Can we know what's happening? Please be quick. Yeah.
I installed Git and I'm having trouble setting it up.
Okay.
I install after installing.
Okay,
Git,
just do this. Okay. How many of you are having trouble installing Git? You know, react to this message. React to my latest message. So if you have any trouble with Git. We have 3. Okay. Okay, so if you have any trouble installing it, it's same. Yesterday we ran all our installations as administrator, right? So probably you wouldn't have done that. Try doing it again with this time running it as administrator, please do it. Try to do it as soon as possible. It won't take more time than that. So, but even though we have 4 people who haven't started Git, who haven't installed Git, but only 15 have reacted. They've completed the node script. So what about the others? We have almost 48 and we have 17 who are following up. So a quick attendance. So just let me know if you're here. See, this is totally I can see people here in the meet. We have almost 50 and we can see 30 reactions. Justin, then please do something about it. And because I don't know where to stop, or it's really inconvenient for me to stop and wait for y'all. So from here on, I'm gonna give you an ample time it would take for anybody to complete whatever I'm doing here, and I'm gonna proceed. Is that fine with everybody?
No.
We're not gonna wait. Yeah.
Actually, I didn't submit that workshop project which you gave on the last Sunday. Last Sunday.
Last Sunday.
That hangman, that one.
What are you
To
talking
submit
about?
in GitHub.
It's not workshop. It's not regarding this workshop.
I mean,
I'll clarify your doubt later, Jishnu.
So how can I proceed further?
that's not relevant to what we are doing here. It's totally different.
இல்லைண்ணா
Yeah.
ஆக்சுவலி அங்கே இருந்தானே நான் அந்த சோர்ஸ் கோட்லாம் எடுத்தீங்க.
No.
Like,
No. Just let's recap quickly. Okay. First, நீங்கள் இந்த மீட்டுக்கு வந்த பிறகு I asked you if you joined the GitHub classroom link. How many of you did that? Classroom link. How many of you clicked the classroom link? Just let me know that. So if you click the classroom link, you would have generated a repository after you sign up with GitHub. Okay, have you all found your correct repository? Because I can see almost 27 have created your and I think now it's 42 have accepted the classroom invite link. Perfect. So have everybody gotten access to your repository? Just let me know. What about the others? We have almost 42 and we have almost 17 people who have successfully found their repository. Repository is nothing but for those who haven't found their repositories yet, head over to this head over to this website, to this link. You'll find our organization's repository. Over there, click on the search bar and type in your name. You would find the repository. So I can say if I search for Json, I can find his repository, right? Just go to your repository, copy the clone link, copy the URL of your repository using the code button and clone it. And I told you how you clone it. We have almost 27 who got their repository. What about the others? And one more thing, all your evaluations will be done on GitHub Classrooms. So if you haven't done anything on GitHub Classrooms and if you are not able to follow up, please do it after the workshop, or even we are here more than 1 hour after the workshop in the voice chat to help you all out. So please just don't go away after each workshop. Make sure you're done for the day. Make sure you complete all of the tasks that we give you. Okay, please do that so that you get evaluated. Okay, so if anybody are still finding trouble finding your repository, just let me know or give your username. I'll try to get you the repository. Yes.
I have installed like a GitHub, not a
Mm.
GitHub, it's a Git application, but it's not opening in CMD process.
I mean,
So
have
it's
you
the same point. Yeah, I have installed.
you've installed git sem, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when you type git, it doesn't show anything.
Yes, it's only reflects in, it's not recognized in the internal and external commands.
Okay. For those who are getting that error, close your PowerShell and reopen it.
Yeah, actually I did for twice.
Do it twice.
It reflects you need to follow git space clone right.
No. Just
Space
type in
the
git.
URL.
Just type in git. Check. Let me know if you get some messages.
Only git. Okay. Yes.
Yes. Just git.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah, receiving I think there is some stuff is receiving from CMD process.
Yes. You would get some message saying usage. So in order to clone, yeah. Okay, let's be straight here on. So after you've installed git, you head over to the repository that you created, your repository. You click on the clone button, get the GitHub URL, head over to the terminal, type in git space clone and your repository's name. Okay.
Clone after we need to use space or not?
Git space clone space the repository's link. It would be like this.
Yeah, now it's working. After checking a git, then only it works.
Yep. Don't clone Jacinth's account. Instead, you know which repository you belong to. So the command should look something like this: git clone and your repository's URL. Just after doing that, you type in git insert username. After typing in that, you do code and the repository's name. Okay. Jishuraj 17.
Yeah, sure.
For those who haven't joined the GitHub Classroom, use the link, join there. Okay, I am gonna proceed. So yes, after you've cloned the file and after you've tried running a Node script, you must have understood something, right? It's just like all your other programming languages. You have Python. You write a Python code. You save it in a .py extension, and you run it using Python space and that file name, right? So this is how you execute a code. You use the recommended command to run it, right? So over here at Node, we use Node, simple, right? So after running your script, so now you have a basic idea of how you run a Node script, right? So usually in any file, probably people would define functions, right? So in order to define a function, you do function. Now don't try to, the others don't go to your GitHub. Just follow up with me. Try to understand as I'm explaining, so that you don't get lost. We can get back to our VS Code later. So just look at my screen. So how you define a function? You have this is a very basic brush up. So you probably put the keyword function and you say add 2 numbers, and this is how you would probably code. You will have some sort of a parameter. You have a and b. You perform a calculation. Let's say you define a variable called c. You add a and b, and then you return c, right? So let's say I'm gonna get the output of two numbers. So let's say I need 1 and 2's sum, and in order to run any code, I do node dot the file name. Let's say it still says hello world. I haven't saved it. So now we got the sum, right? So basically what I'm trying to prove here is you can run your functions, you can run whatever you do on JavaScript over here. But here's the catch. There are some things that you cannot do in Node, okay? Even though you might have used JavaScript on your browser, and you would have done, most of you might have done this. So the very reason people use JavaScript on the browser is to manipulate the DOM elements, right? You have all the visual document, you have an HTML document, and let's say you click on this button. So this is a DOM element, okay? So this is an HTML object, it's an HTML document. In this you have this DOM object, okay? So whenever a user clicks on this button, you want to script in a way that this particular action happens. So whenever a user triggers an event, a button click, you do something, okay? This is basically a DOM event. This is how you code in JavaScript using browsers. So whenever you put a piece of code for your browser, this is what happens, right? But in Node.js, you don't have a browser. All your code is running through Node, and it's just an environment. You don't have a head, right? So you cannot use document dot get element by ID. So some of you might know this. So document dot get element by ID is a way you can manipulate the front end data, right? This won't work here. So you don't have a browser, you don't have a document to manipulate with, so that's not going to work here. So that's a very important thing you must understand when you come to Node, okay? And the other thing is, over here you have a few superpowers. In browser, whenever you write a script on your browser, you will not be able to manipulate files on a computer. So let's say I have a console here, okay? Any website, when you click on inspect, right? When you right click on inspect, you get this pane, and when you click on this on a further drop down menu, you can go to the console, and this is basically where you can play with JavaScript, run some JavaScript code on any given site. So right now we are on GitSEM website, and let's say I log something. So I say console.log, and let's say I send in some message, hello world. So yeah, see, we can, yep, I missed it. Yes, so we were able to get an output. So let's say I want to get the text inside this button. So it says download for Linux. In order to get the text inside the button, usually we do this in JavaScript. We take the ID of the element, and we go to our JavaScript code, and we type in document dot get element by ID, and we say the ID name, and that's it. So you get the button, and if you put document dot further, so this is how you basically get pieces of information from your website whenever you run a script on your website. Basically Node, yeah.
Code வந்து இதாவது லைக் நீங்க உங்களோட வீடியோ வந்து ரைட் பண்ணு கோட்.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, is it better now?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is how you would normally do in regular JavaScript. But here in Node, you cannot do that. So you don't have a browser to manipulate, right? So that's why we don't do that. And the other superpower you have over here is manipulating files, you can talk to the systems, whatever, you can run scripts, you can run commands, you can basically do whatever you do with a programming language, right? So let's get further deep down into the rabbit hole. So we know that people usually define functions for further use, right? And you must also know that you have modules. Can anybody tell me what modules are? Why people use modules? It's a general explanation. So you also have libraries and modules in Python. So even if you know Python, you must have heard modules, right? So anybody want to tell me what modules are? Can somebody unmute and tell me what modules are?
It's just like a program or a part of a program.
Yes, it's a part of a program. Of course, it's a part of a program. Why do we need modules? Why do people need modules? So basically, you need modules whenever you use reusable code, right? So imagine you have written a piece of code that sends a mail to somebody whenever you pass a parameter to it. So let's call that send mail. It's a function, right? So whenever I pass in a parameter of email, so let's say I pass in Fabian Ferno at gmail.com. So I pass in a few parameters along with it. So whenever I call this function with a certain set of parameters, it's gonna trigger an email, right? So imagine this is happening in the background, okay? So in a regular scenario, you might have a very huge project. You might have hundreds of files, and you cannot define the function every single time, right? This is why you define once, and you declare it as a module, and you can pretty much use the module anywhere along your project, right? That's why we use module. So normally in Python you might have come across importing a module. You put import, you put the module's name. So let's say you have request. So this is basically a module. So or you might have come across Pygame. So this is essentially a module, and you're going to use all the functions and objects that are defined inside a module, so that it makes things simpler to you, right? The very important and significant difference between or importance of JavaScript in Node.js is that it provides you a lot of modules that you can play around with. It has a very huge community. It has a very huge community of developers who have built all these goody modules, so that you need not build everything from the ground up, right? So whatever you do, so let's take this example. You have send mail function. So usually you would define this function, right? You would probably call an API, you would probably do some sort of a calculation, do some array processing. So all these processes would be done by you. You would define a function, but instead somebody else wrote a module for you that you can pretty much use it anywhere. So in order to do that, we use modules, right? And this in Node.js is done by npm. Okay, you have npm. Npm is basically Node Package Manager. Okay, so Node Package Manager is a tool that you use to download all these modules inside your project. Okay, am I being clear here? So far, have you all understood what we've been trying to tell you? npm, can you go and react to the message if we are on the same page? Cool. So basically you use npm, and in order to, that's why we installed npm yesterday. So we were able to verify if we had npm by typing an npm ---- version. So you have npm 8.32, or you might have a different version. So in order to start using these modules that are available on the internet, so I kept telling you these modules were written by somebody, by the community of developers around the globe, right? So in order to find these modules, you would probably go to this website, npm. Node Package Manager. So this is a common place where people usually promote or post their repositories. So it's a common index where you can find all these different packages that you can use in your project. So let's say I want a piece of package that that is able to do some machine learning. So a common package that people usually go with machine learning is TensorFlow, and you will also find the same in here. So this is basically an index where you can find different packages that were hosted by people all around the globe. Okay, so this is how you do it. So let's say the package that we will be using now for the entire backend web development is Express. Okay, now we are getting into Express, so this is very important. So in order to get started, in order to start using these packages, we need to initialize a package, initialize our project as a package, right? Our project. So in order to do that, you do npm ---- init. Okay, it's just npm init, and it asks for the package name. I'm gonna say ExpressJS workshop, and it's gonna ask for a version. So let's say I skip all these steps, and if you notice, after doing npm init, you got this file package.json. Okay, so this is a very important file, and this is where all your configurations are stored. So what these configurations are is basically, so whenever you put a piece of code, whenever we write a web server, or we are essentially building an entire app over here. Okay, so we will have a lot of modules to be imported, we will have a lot of scripts to be run, we will have a lot of dependencies basically, right? So in order to store all of these configurations, you have a file called package.json, and this is where you type in the name, you store the version, you store the description of your project, so that people will know what this entire project is all about, right? So you can store the repositories, it automatically gets the packages repository into it. So just let me know if you've done this. Go to your repository that you've cloned, type in npm init. After you've done that, let me know. npm init. Just put in the necessary information it prompts you to do, and just let me know if you've done that. And Jacinton, is my screen flickering, or do you have any problems with the screen?
It's a bit glitching. I think now it's perfect. It was glitching.
Okay.
Yep.
We have 10. Cool. I'm gonna proceed when we have 20. Hope that's cool. And the others who aren't able to follow, or if you find any trouble following the code, at end of all of these sessions, I will be posting all the code that I write into my repository. I will be sending you the links, so don't worry about running the code. Just stay online, and try to understand what we are doing here. Stay active, try to be inquisitive. Okay, I think we have almost 20. Yeah, perfect. So once you've done that, once you have a package.json file, you're good to go. This is essentially a project now. Okay, and now we will be looking at a few concepts about APIs. We are getting back to APIs. Okay, so shall we get started? So yesterday I gave you a very basic or a very ambiguous example, or an explanation of what an API is. Now if you look at my screen, let me just quickly give you a few examples of what these APIs are. So I told you a backend can serve pretty much anything, right? From giving you information about food, or from giving you information about your college, or serving websites, or doing anything, right? A backend can do that. So let's look at what NASA has to offer. So this is a website that I hope everybody are still are on my screen. So if you head over to NASA APIs, so basically these people, the people at NASA, they made their APIs public so that people can get their confidential data. So it's not really confidential when it's public, right? So this API, this backend, this NASA backend will probably get you the information that you need about NASA. This might be information about satellites. This might be information about the moon's weather, and these are very interesting things that you can get from this NASA API. So what we'll try to do is I'll show you what actually happens when you request an endpoint. So this backend, the entire NASA API is located at https api.nasa.government/neo/res/v1. So this is basically your API base URL. Okay. So can somebody just unmute and say if you are following along?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So you have a base URL. So this is basically your backend being hosted at api.nasa.government.gov. So we will try to access this backend, and let's look at what it has to offer. Okay. So if I look at all these different data that they can provide, so let's say I have the Earth Observatory Natural Event Tracker. So it gets me the information about the Earth's Observatory Natural Event. And we have Mars Weather Service API. So it might get me information about Mars and its weather. And like that, we have a very, a lot of different APIs. So let's look at let's look at Satellite Situation Center. So this API will get you the list and locations of where and all the satellites, the NASA satellites are situated at. Okay. I don't think they made it open. Yeah, so let's look at this API, asteroids. So this is Near Earth Object Web Service. So this basically gets you all the near Earth objects like asteroids or any objects that the NASA is able to identify. In order to look at what this API gives us, let's take this URL. So this is basically how a backend request would be. We need a client to communicate with a server. So this was what I told yesterday, right? You have a server, you have a client, and a client is able to contact a server and get data out of it. And we use an API to do the middle job of talking to the backend. So let's say NASA API is the backend, and we are gonna use this piece of code, this API to request. Okay. I told you your browser is essentially a client, and when you put something on your browser, so when you try to locate a backend on a browser, it basically gives this backend a GET request. Okay, it requests using one of the HTTP methods called GET. There are different other methods which we will be looking at further. So just understand that whenever we give a request through our browser, it gives in a GET request. So let's say I type in enter. So I hope you can see the screen. So this is basically all the data of all the near Earth objects that are flying on the sky. So you can understand the significance of how these APIs are useful, right? So you can use these APIs to map all information. You can use these APIs to get some information from any system, right? And one fine example is you can pretty much use this to build a front end. You need not build an entire application. You just need to build a front end where you get this data, you get this bulk of data, and do something with it. Let's say you build an app which gives you the locations of satellites. How you do that? You build a front end, you take this API, you just connect with it, and you get the data. You have all the data that you need. So this is how APIs make your life easier. And once you build an API, you can pretty much build any front end, or anybody else can build any front end to start using your APIs. Okay. So GitHub actually has another API. Any application or any service that you find on the internet would probably have an API for us developers to play with it. Okay, so GitHub, what is GitHub? GitHub basically has all information about your repositories. It has information about the people you follow. It has information about you all pull requests, issues, and all your projects, right? So what you can pretty much do with a GitHub API is you can talk to GitHub's backend, get information about repositories that are hosted on GitHub, and use it on your front end. So that's what I did on my portfolio. So for the ones who haven't visited my portfolio, if you head over to fabianferno.com, yep, it's fabianferno.com.
Or
Yes, is somebody trying to say anything?
your screen is glitching.
Even now?
Yeah.
Okay, just give me a sec. Was it glitching before or is it just happening now?
Every time you change tabs, this happens, but I think now it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, so if you look at my projects page, I get all of these information from GitHub's API. So what I do is GitHub gives me a URL to get data from, so I just query it using my username. So let's say my username on GitHub is Fabian Ferno. So I talk to the backend of GitHub saying that this is what I need, and I have a front end called fabianferno.com, and it's my website, it's my portfolio website, and I register at GitHub's backend saying that this is why I need this data. Okay, so they give me an endpoint which I can pretty much use anywhere I'm using it on my front end. So I get all my information from GitHub dynamically generated from the backend. So every time anybody comes to my website, you will find the latest projects that are on my GitHub. So I need not go every time and change my front end, right? So all my data comes dynamically from the backend, and this is a very good thing when you design actual apps. You wouldn't stick to static content when you serve any front end, right? So this is where we as a backend developer come in and play. So we are going to do something like GitHub's API. We are going to build an actual API that is able to do something similar to this. Any front end can basically use our backend. Am I being clear here? Even another example is even LinkedIn. LinkedIn has an API. You can use LinkedIn to get information from your profile. So what you can do is even if you build a profile, and let's say you over a couple of years you have to update all your experience, right? You have to update all your education and what you've done so far. Over here you can probably use LinkedIn's API to get the information directly from the LinkedIn, and probably you can just set up once in LinkedIn and it will reflect everywhere you set up this API. So this way your data is dynamic and it's not just fixed. You need not come to your website, write a piece of code every single time to update your status, right? So this is where you can do all of these fun stuff with backend, and we'll show you a live demo of. Okay, so far you've seen how to get information from a backend. So we've looked at GitHub, we looked at NASA's APIs, we looked at LinkedIn as an example. So what if we want to send in some information to any backend? So for this, I'll have to choose somebody from the crowd. Let's take okay, do we have okay, it's like totally random, but Jacinth, select somebody for me, preferably anybody. No, yeah, select somebody for me.
yeah, yep.
Tufail, are you here?
Yeah,
Okay, cool. When's your birthday?
November 5.
November 5. Can you spell out your name? Where? I cannot find you. Where are you?
THUFAYL.
THUFAYL. Perfect. Okay. So let's say we were talking about APIs and how we can get information from it, right? So let's say we are able to write information or send information to a backend using an API. So I'm going to do it live in front of you. So So we have Tufail, and Tufail's birthday was on November, and that's not gonna be true anymore. Tufail's birthday is today. So let's say we have Tufail, and I press enter. I want everybody to go to the general channel, and if you head over to the general channel, you will find this post. So this is basically our backend running on a server. So if you head over to the general chat, we have set up a backend which basically gets information. So I gave it an information saying that my the person I would like to wish is the file, and it said it generated a picture which wishes birthday for the file, right? So this is how you can also talk to a backend, and I just showed you an example of how you can do cool stuff with APIs and stuff like that. So we are gonna be building an API that is able to receive requests as well as respond with images, as well as respond with data that can be pretty much used anywhere, right? Are we on the same page? Are we going good? Can we have a message, a reaction? I'm just gonna take a 10-minute delay time, since we had to set up all the Git and other softwares. So just bear with me. Cool, we have almost 20 reactions, and let's get on board. So far we looked at all APIs and how these APIs can work and why we need these APIs, and we even saw a working example of using this API. And sorry to Foil for spoiling your birthday date. And cool. So we looked at APIs, and the other cool thing about APIs are you can actually make money out of it. Okay, so you looked at NASA's APIs, right? It was free to use. We looked at how we can use their API to probably show information, right? These people are doing it for free. These people made their APIs public for free, but not many do that. So let's say you have Netflix APIs, and Netflix API gets you information of all the latest movies on Netflix. Or let's take Uber. So Uber has an API which gets you the information of whatever parameter that you pass into. Let's say I pass in Chennai and I pass in Perungalattur. So it will get me the rate of traveling from from somewhere in Chennai to Perungalattur, right? So these services, some of them don't give it for free. So you can actually build APIs and you can start charging people for that, right? You built a backend, you built it generic so that anybody can use your backend in a way that it's actually useful, and you can start selling these APIs on web. So this is how people actually make money out of building APIs. Isn't that cool? So you can also make money when you build APIs. So that's one part. And let's dissect this API's endpoint, okay? So you have this piece of code. I hope my screen is visible. Is it? Perfect. Okay, if you look at this URL, of course anybody knows this is a URL, right? And it starts with something. So this part, the first part, api.nasa.gov, okay, gov. This is basically your backend. It's your server running on a particular domain. Let's say we build a web server, and it's able to accept requests and respond back as responses. Okay, so this API, this piece of code will be running somewhere, right? And that will be running at this location, api.nasa. Stupid. Okay, it will be running at api.nasa.gov. And what about the next set of text? You have neo/res/v1/feed. So this is basically the location of what we are trying to get. So we need feed of probably data, right? We need feeds of NASA. and in order to get that, the data needs to be in certain location. Even take your website, any website, even the GitHub's website, for specific pages you have specific locations of the URL, right? So for me to get to my ExpressJS workshop repository page, I need to type in github.com, which is my actual server. I need to locate my username. Under my username I have the workshop repository, right? So basically that's how you locate a particular resource. And after that you have a question mark. Okay, so this is a very cool way to a very common way to talk to a backend. So this is how you query a backend. Querying a backend. What's querying a backend? So basically you need to talk with a backend for you to get information. We needed information, we needed feeds from a backend that starts from a particular date, and it gets me the information until an end date. So we need information like this. So this is how you pass in information. This is one way of passing information. So this type of passing request parameters is called querying an endpoint. Okay, over here if you look at if it's visible, I hope it's visible. So if you look at the text, it says start date, and we are querying using this parameter and our value and other further parameters that you would like to send. And at the end, if you notice, you have an API key. Okay, this API key is another very important thing that you would normally use to secure your backend. I told you, right, you have all these paid APIs. So we had Netflix's APIs, which takes in some amount from you and gets you the API. And in order to get you that API, they would probably get you some API key for you to use. Unless you get that API, unless you buy that API key from them, you wouldn't be able to talk to their backend. And once you got the API key, you would probably send the API key along with the request. So now your backend knows, okay, this person is authorized to use the backend, I will send him information. So this is how the backend works. Am I being clear here? Yeah, do you get the point why we use all these querying parameters and what we actually see here? So let's say URL. Just let me know if you are clear with this. Okay, perfect. So now we'll get into Postman and we'll shut for the day. And I wanted you all to start using Express. So okay, let's get started with Express. Actually, it won't take a long time. So since we have our package.json file over here, let's get started with our actual API. Okay, so when you get back to your terminal, just do this command: npm install Express. So we need Express. I told you Express is a module. It's more of a framework that you use to build applications, web applications. It's a web application framework. And what we will be doing over the couple of days is we will be using Express to write our backend. We will be using Express and not any other. There are pretty much a very huge list of frameworks that you could use. I highly recommend using Express because it has a very extensible project structure, and it's pretty much flexible. Anybody can get started with Express without having to know much. So this is very, very useful for beginners if you're getting started with web dev. So I want you all to install Express. npm install Express. So the command would be npm space install space Express. Please let me know if you've done that. So if you notice, once you've installed Express, a new file got created. Okay, we have package-log.json. So does anybody know what's the difference between package.json and package-log.json? Does anybody want to try? Maybe look at what both these files have, and you might probably have a better idea. compare both of these files, and can somebody tell me what's the difference between both of these files? Are we still on the same page? I can see 18 reactions. What about the others? And if somebody has finished, can somebody help me find the difference between package.json and package-log.json? Come on, you need not be correct. We'll figure it out. Just give it a try. Look at the piece of code in both of these files. Try to get the difference. At least tell me the difference. Hello?
Maybe one is the front end and the other one is the back end.
Why do you say that?
Because the logged one has a lot of code rather than, and the
okay.
logged
So
one has,
whenever you find a lot of code, you call it a backend.
Like it has like a main page for the package.json. It has like a main page and a URL, while the logged one has, more of cookies, everything else like dictionary keys.
Of course, even the log file has the name, version, and all the other things that you find on package.json.
Yeah, but additionally, it has a lot more.
Okay, I mean, there's a keyword here. When you look, it's right there in front of your eyes. Does somebody else want to give it a try? Okay, just have a look at this folder, node modules. Okay, I told you in the beginning that we will be installing a few modules, and so far we installed one module, right? What was the module that we installed? It's simple question. It's a simple, not even a question. It's just what I did. Why is nobody talking?
Express.
Yeah, please. This is very annoying if you don't talk. So we installed Express, right? It was just one module. But if you head over to the node modules folder, you can pretty much see there are probably 100 modules in that file. Did you notice that? Yes. So even though we installed one module, it got me probably these modules. I didn't install it. We didn't install body parser. We didn't install cookie or all these other packages, right? So what is happening here is, let's get deep into what is actually happening, so that you get to know what happens under the hood. Okay, so we installed a dependency called Express. Here on whatever modules that we install, let's call it dependencies. So basically our project is going to depend on Express. We need Express to run our project, right? So we call it Express. It's our main dependency. So let's say Express and its version is 4.17.2, and this is the module that we install. Express internally, when you look at the file, let's find Express. Yup, it's right over here. If you head over to the code that just got downloaded to your project, you'll find Express itself is using a lot of other modules. Can you have a look at this? It's using query string, a different module. It's using proxy-addr. It's using a module called content type. So basically, all your dependencies internally, they have another set of dependencies. Express is our dependency. Our package is called ExpressJS Workshop, and my backend has a dependency called Express. Express itself has a dependency, and that's this. So basically, you require package-log.json file to store all these dependencies, right? So all this huge chunk of data, all this huge chunk of packages, the list of packages is not what you install. It's what Express requires. This is what Express needs for it to run effectively. Okay, are we being clear here? Now do you know what's the difference between package.json and package-log.json? So package log basically has all the extra dependencies that your actual dependencies would need. Cool. So once you've successfully installed Express, just get back to your index.js file. So we'll quickly write 5 lines of code, and we would have successfully written a web server now. Okay, are we ready? Shall we get started? It's gonna take a couple of, just 5 more minutes and we'll be done. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Cool. So once you're ready, the first line of code that we require is we need to import Express, right? We install the module into our project directly. We need to import that in whatever code that we are writing. To do that, you put const express require express. So this is how you would normally require a module in any JavaScript. This is a format that people usually call ECMA 6, ECMA 5 standards. There are different ways to import a file, and these conform to different standards of JavaScript versions. Okay, so right now we will be following ECMA ECMA. I don't know how to pronounce. We usually call it ECMAScript, and it's called ECMA 6 ES6 version, and this is how we usually import when it comes to that standard version. And the other way you could import is using import the package name, and you would say import express from express. So this is a more cleaner way, and this is what the latest standard requires you to do. Okay, so let's stick to the old version for now, and we'll get back to the latest standard. So once you've successfully required our express, we can start declaring our app. We can start defining our web server. So right now we are going to build a web server. So let's define a web server object. So I'm going to call it server, and I'm going to initialize it with express. So what is happening here? So basically all the piece of code that were defined on express, the module express, has a constructor. So whenever you construct a server, whenever you build a server, you initialize it using express. So basically all the functions, all the modules that were written under express, all the framework gets imbibed into whatever object that you're defining. So right now I'm going to call it server. You can probably call it app. People usually call it API, and this is totally up to the developer standpoint. So right now let's call it server. We are going to build a web server. Okay, after doing this, the first set of the first line that we're going to do is server dot get, and a forward slash basically means the root, and I'm gonna get the request. I told you whenever you talk with the server, you have a request object, you have a response object, and you're gonna take that request and response object, and you're gonna do something with it, right? So let's say you have an empty request and a response. So whenever somebody talks to your server on the base URL, so whenever somebody talks to your server, they should get back a message saying hello world. Okay, so we defined what our server needs to do. So whenever somebody comes to our server, whenever somebody accesses our server using get method, it should respond back with a hello world. So we've defined what our server needs to do. In order to start our server, in order to make our server in a way it starts listening to requests, is the next piece of code that we're gonna write. Okay, we will put server dot listen, so that it listens to the incoming requests, and you define a port on which it's gonna run. So port is another concept that most of you might know, and for the ones who don't know, basically a lot of applications keep running on your computer, right? So your server is basically a process that you're gonna start, and you want this process to be running on a particular port so that it doesn't affect any other process. And let's say anybody from the internet tries to access the computer that you're running. The computer is the web server that you're running. It needs to know which particular process to ping to, and you probably identify this server's port using the port number. and I'm gonna use 5000. So it'll start listening for requests at port 5000. Okay, and once it starts listening, I needed to send a message to the console saying the server is running on port 5000. It was simple, right? So I'm gonna quickly copy and paste this code in the coders chat. If somebody were finding any trouble following the code, just copy paste this line of code. So we've written our first web server. To start our web server, can somebody tell me what's the code? How do you run a file? How do you execute a JavaScript file in Node? Can somebody help me out?
Node index.js.
Perfect. Node index.js. So it says server is running on port 5000. Okay, let's check if it really works. So I go to my browser, and I hope all of you know that whenever you refer to your computer as a server, I would probably call that server localhost. It has a domain, right? So localhost is basically your computer serving. So I'm not gonna get into the nitty-gritties of what this actually means, so I'm gonna stick with the abstracted explanation of whatever I'm doing here. So you go to localhost and you say the port number, localhost at 5000, and you press enter. See, we successfully built our first web server. Tell me if you got the server up and running and you got the hello world message. React to my message. Cool, are we done? We have 12 responses. What about the others? Do you have any problem? So how many of you have started your web server? Just go to the coder chat and respond. We have 17. What about the others? We have almost 47, and we have 18 who are following the workshop. So if you're just following and if you haven't executed it, just let me know. So if you will be doing the code afterwards, it's totally fine. Just let me know if we can proceed. Cool, we have almost 25. So I hope you all have successfully started your web server, and this is where things are gonna get more messier, right? So far I've told you that you can get information from a server. So this piece of code handles the get requests that you ping to the base URL, right? You have localhost at 5000, and whenever somebody comes to the base root URL, you send them this message. So what about the other URL? So you would probably have slash, let's call it workshop. So I want somebody to so whenever somebody comes to the workshop endpoint, I need them to get a different message. In order to do that, you do server.get. Any guesses what would come here?
Workshop.
Perfect. So you would put workshop, and the second parameter would be your request and response objects. And you respond with hello workshop. So the other cool thing that we're going to look at here is I'm going to save the file, and it got saved. The server is still running. I haven't stopped the server. Okay, so you told me when I put this code and when I enter the workshop route, it should get me hello workshop. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
But it cannot get workshop. It could not get workshop. There's a reason behind it. Can somebody point that out? I saved the file. My node server is running, but why is it not showing?
Should we restart the server?
Perfect. That's exactly what we need to do. We need to restart the server. This is a very annoying thing when it comes to backend web development. Okay, so whenever you need to make some changes, you want the server to automatically restart. It's really tiresome whenever you do some code, you stop the server and you type in the code again and you restart. So now if I go to the endpoint, it says hello workshop, right? This is a very annoying way to do, right? So that's where another module comes in. We are gonna get into our second module. Do npm install nodemod. I'm gonna paste the command in the coders chat. Do npm install nodemod. I mean, even if you are just looking at the code, if you are not executing it, just get me the reaction so that we can proceed. But if you are truly waiting for the, doing and waiting for me to explain, it's well and good. Just let me know if you need something. Cool, we have 17 who have installed nodemod. So what is nodemod? Nodemod is basically a tool. It's again a module that helps you run the node server without you having to restart the server every single time a file change happens, right? So right now I have a new file and the same file, and I'm gonna make a new change. So let's say I change workshop to Pattarai's workshop, and it should dynamically change the server's state, right? That's what we need. Oh wait, I haven't started my server. To start the server using nodemod, you do nodemod and the file name. Okay. Yes, so you do npm space nodemod space the file. And if you notice, now my server is running on port 5000. I got the same message, but the cool thing over here is, so now whenever I make changes to my file, so I change Pattarai's workshop to that Pattarai's workshop. So I click on Ctrl S, and you can see the nodemod watches for the changes that you do, and it immediately changes the server state, so that if I head over to my website, if I refresh, I need not restart the server again. Isn't that cool? So this is predominantly what is happening on the internet. So whenever somebody develops a backend, they will set up this nodemod and keep listening for backend server changes, so that every single time you can actually look at what's happening. So far we've built a web server, we listen for changes, we wrote 2 endpoints, right? We wrote 2 endpoints. So kudos to everybody who really participated and really did what we did today. And tomorrow we will be looking at a few other things. We will be looking at how you can structure an entire project, how you can structure a web server properly from end to end. Tomorrow we will be getting started with TypeScript and how it can be a game changer when it comes to backend web development. We will look at databases, we will look at installing Postgres, and we will set up Postgres database access on our web server, and we will look at how these things will probably work on the front end. Okay, and at the end we will be working on authorizing our endpoints. So right now we don't have any form of security. Anybody on the internet, anybody can just head over to the link and they would be able to get the response. But we don't need that when it comes to confidential apps, when it comes to banking apps. So whenever somebody gets to our URL, you need to set some sort of check. So that's why you get into all other security policies and cars and a few other technologies that we will look at tomorrow. Okay, so I hope you all had a very good tiresome learning experience over the evening, and thank you for joining us for the second day. Let's meet again tomorrow. Jason, you have something to say?
We have feedback forms, so
Yeah, perfect.
that's it.
And again, my request is everybody please look at the notifications, watch out for the notifications, please install all the softwares required prior to the workshop. We cannot lose time. It's because we planned this workshop for 3 to 4 days, and I hope many of you freshers have unit tests coming around the corner. We don't want to mess it up, so we'll try to stick to the time, and please help us by doing what we require you to do before the workshop. Okay, and get yourself the workshop in progress role so that you get notified, and install all the softwares that I've told you prior. And if you had any trouble to following the workshop today, if you had any trouble setting up the project like we did today, I will be posting this repository over to my repository, and I want all of you to tomorrow when you come, we will be looking at how you can push this code to GitHub so that I can look at your code and evaluate, right? So keep your documents safe, don't delete anything, just keep it intact. Tomorrow we'll be looking at how you can push this data to GitHub and so on. So plus just do whatever we tell you. Again, I can't stress that enough. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Guys, the feedback form is posted in the coders chat. So based on it, we will mark the attendance. So kindly fill it. And also another announcement is that tomorrow's session will be a 2-hour session. So come prepared for that. The timing will be 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Cool guys, do you have any other queries or doubts? I think no one has any doubts. Siri, we'll be waiting down. If you have any doubts now, we'll clarify or else guys can leave.
Yeah, just make sure you've done everything until now. So even if you don't get it done by today, naliki madhyanakulla try to get it done so that we are all on the same page when we work tomorrow's session. Because tomorrow is going to be very, even more complex than what we did today. And yeah, tomorrow's the real deal.